Thank you for your interest in Emendara and the reality of fault-free software. We're grateful for the opportunity to explain to you our computational logic verification technology. Microsoft's Nadella was right when he said that every business will be a software business. It's hard to imagine a sector or a marketplace larger or more pervasive than software is these days. Unfortunately, the quality of software isn't very good. In fact, a lot of people think that software quality is the worst of any man-made product since the beginning of time. Well, what is it we do here at Emendara? Well, what we do is we reduce the cost of finding software faults by about 85%. And we can do that while finding the faults you know about and the ones you don't know about. The result is this: we can cut software development, maintenance, and enhancement costs at least in half. We can also ensure the compatibility of new programs before you spend a nickel on them. And if you decide to go ahead with that purchase, we can minimize software integration costs and time by about 90%. Well, we hope you're impressed as well. But let's talk a little bit about how exactly we do all of that. It begins with the definition of a fault. Our definition is this: it's any instruction or information in source code that does not lead to the intended output. Anything that doesn't contribute to or that blocks what we're trying to do is declared a fault. Capers-Jones, the software guru, suggests that in any 100,000 lines of code, there's going to be 250 faults capable of shutting you down or of creating erroneous results. Now, he's one of the more optimistic people. Others think it's about 10 times that number. Regardless, the fact is software is blamed for more major business problems than any other factor. Is that a big deal? Let's take a look. If you have a pacemaker, you're dealing with 90,000 lines of code. Your smartphone has between 2 and 10 million. It takes 18 million lines of code to fly a Dreamliner. MacBook Pro, 85 million. And in your car, there are 50 to 100 million lines of code. We've all heard about healthcare.gov, roughly 500 million lines of code, filled with all kinds of problems that they're still trying to work out. In fact, the government thinks it's going to take a couple of years before they can really remove most of the key faults in that program. Is this costing us a lot of money? It sure is. What's interesting is that 40% of a typical company's IT budget goes to the maintenance of software systems, getting them compatible, working out the problems, upgrading, and so forth. In the government, it's 73%, and in 2014, that was in excess of $50 billion. Even when we try to fix all these faults, we're creating more faults. It's like this never-ending cycle that's a continual problem. The costs are astronomical, and what's really troubling is that fewer than 20% of companies have any kind of plan to deal with poor software quality. It's like we've resigned ourselves that this is just the way it is and we just have to live with it. Well, no, you don't. We have an answer to this problem. What's also interesting is that we'll never run out of work. Every year, 2 trillion new lines of code are written, and that's only going to grow exponentially. Roger Sessions, the complexity theorist, says this: if we can solve this problem, it's going to increase our GDP by over $1 trillion a year. So what is computational logic verification? Well, what we do is we take public and proprietary technology and processes that are logical, semantic, and mathematical in nature, and we combine those in a way that nobody else has thought of before. Now, we can't get into the depths of the technology here, but we will tell you that we have now passed our proof of concept phase, and we're beginning to look forward to building actual working prototypes. We're very pleased with the way this technology is developing and the impact it potentially can have. We're also pleased with the growing relationship with Micron Technology and their automata processing. They've created a new processor, a massively parallel processor that's destined to replace the 60-year-old von Neumann architecture that most of our computers are based on these days. Here's what's really amazing about this processor. It's capable of 6.6 trillion path decisions per second. We're also pleased that Micron has recognized Emendara as the first commercial enterprise designed specifically to employ the automata processor. Do we have competitors? Well, we sure do. Here's a list of some of them right there. Most of them are focused on very specific applications. In fact, here are some of the characteristics. Notice that they tend to leave about 25% of faults undetected. In fact, the cost of inadequate testing in the US is $59 billion a year. Computational logic verification, on the other hand, finds all the faults. We can do that about 600% faster than other programs. We reduce the cost substantially. Well, our business model is basically the hub and spoke model. What we've identified are 24 specific verticals, similar to the ones that you can see here. The idea then is to find successful software providers in each of these verticals and arrange a licensing and royalty agreement with them. Some of these categories are billion-dollar categories. Now, we're trying to eat an elephant here, so you have to take it one bite at a time. And we're going to focus initially on the Enterprise Resource Planning category, the ERP category, that will allow us to get our technology refined and to get a foothold in the marketplace. And we're going to focus specifically on Southwest USA. So here is the projections for 3 years. Again, keep in mind we're focusing only on ERP and only in the Southwest. But as you can see, we anticipate roughly $38 million in gross revenue. We're EBITDA roughly $27 million, and we anticipate profit margins in the 70% category. We're looking for an initial investment of about $600,000, and you can see very clearly that most of that money is going to go to the further development of the technology itself to make sure that it's commercialized and scalable as far as we can take it. Beyond that, we're looking for an additional $3.4 million, and again, you can see roughly how we plan to spend that money. We're very, very excited about this opportunity, this privilege of bringing the world the reality of fault-free software. We would very much appreciate the chance to work with you in that cause. I thank you so much for your attention. We look forward to hearing from you.